Most people do not see God at work in their personal lives and therefore do not know how to join Him. This Divine Appointments podcast is to encourage you in your faith, to open your eyes to seeing God's hand at work. My hope and prayer is that by hearing these stories, you too will engage where God is already working and discover God's mission for your life.
Joel is a CPA, and he doesn't start any time that we teach without a title. So that's why you got a title. We got to have a title. Right. We teach Sunday school, and we can't even my brain is like all these ideas, and he's like, I have to have a title before we plan everything to teach. So our title tonight is Partner Where God is Already Working. What can a little white woman do? So when you asked me, I thought you were asking the story behind the story of that title. But we have always said that we like to partner where God is already working. And that's been many things during the years, from helping with Grace City when they were getting started, to our little college young single Sunday school class, to City Church, and Joel was on the board of Berry Treasures at one time. So lots of different things, but partner where God is already working. And there was a Sunday night where Chip had us all meet at the tables, and we were talking about Joy to Jackson. And then we broke up into little table groups. Do y'all remember that? Like last summer maybe? And he had us answer questions about Jackson and how we could bring joy to Jackson. And I wish we had the pictures. And so when we got to our table, one of the questions we started talking about, and of course Joel is passionate, and he's like, it's fatherless homes. It's fatherless homes. We have all these inner city kids with no fathers, and he was just on a roll with it.
Well, that's what she told me, just to come here, stand beside me, and I'm just supposed to add things occasionally, because I will get on the roll. I gotta say this.
He's passionate. He's passionate.
I do
so
think
he's
this
talking
is
about fatherless homes, and he said, we were mentioning a little bit of City Church to this little small group. And one of the deacon's wives, who's a good friend, we won't say her name, but she said, what can a little white woman do? And it was so funny to me. I mean, we chuckled later about it, but that really is the question. What can a little white woman do? And she was feeling that like helpless feeling, like what can we do? And along that same week, we came home to a whole group of City Church kids in our swimming pool in the backyard with Will and Reed Travelston. And I wanted to show the picture of Jacob and John, who are best friends. Miss Jean's grandson Jacob and my John are the same age, and we have them pictures all the way from K3 all the way to now going to be seniors next year. And it just so happens, another God appointment is we were at City Church Sunday, and I snapped that church. Jacob just jumps in the car with us occasionally and goes with us to City Church, and he did this.
Jacob, her grandson, he's like in the car. We're like, okay, Jacob's here. People just show up in our car. Okay, here it is. This is the only screen you're gonna get.
Yeah, okay.
But that's
He was
You can pass it around.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right, we'll pass that around. Take a look at that one.
So they're standing at the fence line, these big old boys, and that picture, I snapped it. I was like, look at that, Joel. I mean, those little kids were following them around like little puppies. They had just played football with them after Sunday school, and they were leaned up, and Joel said, yeah, you didn't get the rest of that picture. Our boys were coming to get in the car with us, and these little boys are running behind them the whole way to our car. And then they're coming and talking to us and telling us about Jacob and John and Jacob playing football with them. And you could just see they just yearn to have that male mentorship playing
tell
real
them
fast
about
again.
how city, I'm here to direct her back. Tell them how City Church started the apartment complex and why they have a lack of male leadership. Tell them.
Okay, so most of you know how it started, but our connection is we grew up at Hillcrest Baptist Church in South
I was supposed to
Jackson.
talk to that part. It's about our connection.
And that's how it started.
Okay.
I had to say those people.
This is going back to, we were in high
This is
school.
how we do Sunday school, by the way.
It's exactly like that. We choreograph what we're doing in the middle of it. This was, we were in high school. Meredith and I started dating in 9th grade. We went to Hillcrest Baptist Church, so separate Hillcrest School, Hillcrest Church, and City Church. So we've got all these different things going on. Well, Meredith and I went to Hillcrest Baptist Church, born and raised there. I was, the whole thing. And when we were in high school, and I was probably maybe a senior, which would have made Meredith a 10th grader. So usually when you were in 10th grade, I don't know if your mom would let you ride with me, so I'm not sure if our timing is right yet. But anyway, so we're there, and our youth director, Charles Welch, said there's a family who is in desperate need. They need somebody to go shopping for them and to bring them food. So you're talking about 2 teenagers who I'd probably never been to a grocery store myself shopping for me. Anyway, so Meredith and I get together as teenagers, get in a car, go to a store, and I don't know where we got the money. I don't have any idea.
It was our Christmas gift to each other.
It was our Christmas gift to each other. That's what it was.
And we
That's what it
went and unloaded a bunch of food by
Right, that's what
ourselves.
I'm
I don't know why
saying.
our parents were.
Bags and bags of groceries. I mean, just
And we opened the door. Do you remember that?
Well,
and
that's-
nobody was there.
looking back now, I'm shocked we didn't get shot.
Oh my gosh, what
So
were we thinking?
we're at this apartment complex right by Metro Center, and we're knocking on the door, and I think there was a television and a light on, and this is just stupid.
I don't know
I'd
why.
kill my kids if they did this, but I turned the doorknob and the door opened. So we
looked
we
at
announced
each other like-
ourselves, and we walked in, and
Nobody was
nobody was
there.
there, and we just left all these groceries there, and then we left.
No, we've never told anybody the story.
Yeah, that was the end of that. Well,
It's blasted
so
now.
fast forward, yes, we'll fast forward 20-something years. That's the apartment complex at City Church, a group of young 20-something Christians on fire for the Lord wanting to make an impact in their community. They show up and start a church in that apartment complex that we had been involved in that little way 15 years earlier. Just weird how God ties all this stuff together. Wow, you
It
can.
is totally same place on Metro, on Highway 80.
So cool.
You know, you can see Metro Center down the road. So that's the story of City Church. They were young marrieds. Luke was a youth minister, and they just, I don't know even why they were drawn to that apartment complex, but that's for low income housing, and the kids don't have lunches on the weekends, and
Because they always eat
they
lunch at
eat
school.
breakfast and lunch at school, and then on Saturday and Sunday they really are hungry. And from my house, it's like 15 minutes. So I keep saying that, like, it's 15 minutes from my house. So they started going on Saturdays, and they still do this today, brown bag, corn dogs with chips and a Capri Sun, and they just started coming. And there was one little boy named Ishmael and one little boy named Mario, and they were about 8 years old.
How many of y'all know Mario? I know a lot of
It is.
man, y'all know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Incredible man, smart as all get out, as a quarterback at Belhaven College, and now as on the coaching staff. This was one of those little boys at an apartment complex with no father in anyway. Just imagine him, where those who know him now, this is where he was, and these little goofy little white folks show up. The reason I'm saying the race is because it plays a part in what you're about to say with Ishmael.
So their grandmothers were their strongholds in their lives, and those 2 grandmothers together prayed that Jesus would, that God would send someone to lead their grandsons to Jesus Christ. So here come these white folks.
In these vans, just show up.
And they, if you hear Ishmael tell the story, it just is so funny. He's like, as a little 8-year-old, like here are these white people.
That's
What
why
do
we
they
keep
do
using.
in
That's
here?
why we're using the races, because that's how Ishmael tells. He goes, "Who are these white people? That keep
What do they-
coming up?
what do they want
from
from
us?"
us?
That was my mindset.
What do they want
What
from
do they want from us?
And why are they here? And slowly, and he has some other things like, don't knock on that door, that's drug dealer, he'll shoot you. But slowly, when I talked to Ish about these first days, he said, I just didn't know this, I didn't know that, and they just kept coming, and then they would have outdoor Bible studies for a while, and then eventually some parents would come, and then they just started meeting like in a regular service, and then they met at Clausell Elementary next door.
They
for a long
met
time.
under the pine trees in this apartment complex for years.
A long
And
time.
it just went on and on and on for
With
years.
Luke, is that what your name is?
With
Luke?
Luke.
They were-
Yes, with Luke,
Yeah.
they would just show up on Saturdays and
With
just
lunches.
passing out the lunches and then
Mhm.
have a Bible study under the trees. Went on for years before they went to the elementary school across the street, and then ultimately where City Church is now.
And so I, eventually I said, Ish, what was it about them that led you to the Lord, that you saw a difference, something was, what drew you to them? And he said, they just kept coming.
That sounds so trite.
And I was like,
That's
wow.
a big deal.
He
They-
said,
They
they
just
kept coming.
kept coming.
It wasn't like a one time and gone, they just kept coming every week, they just kept coming and coming, and, anyway, that eventually grew into City Church. And these were our people, these were, when we were in youth group, these were, Adam Epperson, Luke and all
Luke
them,
and all,
they were the kids running
they would
around.
have been 6 and 7 and 8 years old when we were in the youth group. So it's such a weird
And
generational
then their
thing.
parents were like our
They
teachers.
were our
Sunday school
teachers in our Sunday school classes. So
And
it's just like the whole
now
generation shifted.
Our kids are
So sweet.
serving under them, so we have a special place. It's like that song, remember me, you're old enough to teach, old enough to preach, old enough to lead, it's very special to us. And of course, some of y'all have heard me tell the story that we had known Ishmael for a while, and he had been coming into our house and eating lunch after Sundays, and they had a Christmas program down there, and we took presents, and they had a big, Christmas parade thing, or, nativity scene and celebration and singing, and the kids all sang, and then I went out to the car to get presents, and his mom, who was not quite as involved as his grandmother, she would come, and she comes hit and miss some, and she saw me in the parking lot, and she said, did you used to work at UMC? And I said, oh, a long time ago, I trained there. And she said, did you deliver babies? And I said, yes, ma'am. She goes, you delivered my son Ishmael.
So we're at their apartment complex as teenagers.
Yeah.
She delivered
So it was when
Ishmael
I was
years
a
later.
resident. I was a resident, and there was in my class. When I was a resident in med school in OBGYN, you don't know the babies from back then that you delivered. And here it was, like, it still gives me chills. It was before my kids, because he's older than my kids, and I was a resident. I didn't have babies until after that, and so I just grabbed Ish. I'm like, I delivered you. Your mom remembers. So anyway, it's just like, and that's where my first podcast came from, and that's where my idea of divine appointments, it was from that. I'm like, this is a divine appointment. We are supposed to be involved in this ministry. Here we are, full circle, 30 years later. So that's why City Church is special to us. So I'm asking
You're on this
questions.
question.
We're asking questions for y'all. Aren't y'all so glad?
You're at that question.
Well, first of all, when people say, where do y'all go to church? And I say, well, we have a dual membership.
That's really what we say.
Because we teach at First Baptist, we teach the young singles or anyone who wants to come into our class. And then we jump in the car and go to City Church the second hour, and then we watch Chip on Sunday afternoon on
That's our first thing we do when we get home is watch it. So we literally go to both churches.
because we still want to be involved at First Baptist and have John involved in the youth group, and but our heart is really with City Church. And for many years, so what did you say? Did you change City Church, or did City Church change you? And so I was gonna tell y'all and show you a picture of my boys who are now 23, 20, and 17. And you know, sometimes you go into a ministry thinking, oh, we're gonna do something. You know, we're gonna change this. And you know, Joel did a lot of the like remodeling.
That picture you were gonna show?
Yeah, these
All right,
boys.
we'll pass that around.
Actually, it was the other one with them singing in the church. But okay. So he did a lot of the structural things and things like that, and you know, we just have been going a long time. And I thought, you know, did my boys miss out that we were missing the worship service and taking them to City Church? And you know, we did Sunday school and then worship. They didn't go and hear the big City Church. I mean, the big worship service at First Baptist. Did we miss out? Or they missing out? Because they would go in and play with the boys in the nursery or help with them. And
Now they teach. Back then.
yes, and so not till recently I was like, oh, wow, thank you, Lord, because City Church changed us, and it changed our family. And our Will has been a student intern after yours, a student intern there from all of Mississippi College that he's about to graduate. And Reed and John have grown so much. I just say perspective. You know, Will would come home teaching Sunday school, and he would say, Mom, Dad, we talked about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we talked about the Lamb of God and all this, and he said, Mom, they've never even heard that story before. They've never even heard of Noah and the ark. I mean,
the things you think, the things you attach to foreign missions are happening. Well, I'm thinking I'm at my house. Are happening, you know, 15 minutes
minutes
right
from
there.
our house.
They literally, I mean, these kids literally, some of them weren't sure who Jesus even was. They didn't know his name, had never been taught. And if you think about it, with the way the last 4 or 5 generations have been, where they have mothers who were 14, 15, 16, they have grandmothers who were 31, they have great-grandmothers, you see what I'm saying? And so you quickly, in about a 20-year cycle, can get 3 or 4 generations where God is gone. God is gone right here in the heart of the Bible Belt. And that's, I say that strongly because it was shocking. It was shocking.
And so, like for me, like what can a little white woman do? All we're doing is going and joining where somebody is working, where God is already working. And so, it's changed us. Reed is a sophomore at MC, and recently Joel's mom passed away. We had the funeral, and we reconnected with the pastor of our home church. Chris
He wasn't the pastor when we were there, but he was pastor for my mom after we left.
Yes, and we just kind of reconnected with him with the funeral that he did and everything, and he called Joel. Do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, real quickly, he called me, it was maybe 2 weeks after my mom's funeral, and he and I had some wonderful conversations about my mom. Anyway, it's just, so we really did reconnect. Oh, I'm sorry to kill that. So anyway, he calls me, he says, and I thought he was calling maybe just to check about the funeral of my mom or something. And he says, Joel, I'm in a bind, I need some help. I said, what's up? And he said, my youth director just walked out, basically said, I'm gone, I found another job, I'm out of here. It was like the beginning of the summer, and the youth, that youth group had already dwindled down extremely small. He says, I'm in a bind, I've got to get somebody here now. I heard your oldest son, Will, is an intern at City Church. Would he even consider coming down here and look? And I started laughing because I mean, literally that week I was talking to Will, and he was talking about how much he has to do, but one, how much he loves City Church. So it just hit me immediately. I said, well, this was 2 years ago actually now. I said, I'm sorry. I said, he loves City Church. He's a full-time intern there. There's no way he would move. But I said, but I have another son. I said, who?
David.
And I said,
Yes.
Reed, my other son. He said, how old is he? I said, well, he's 17. He's a freshman. He said, send him my way. I sent him. Here, I'll tell you one little tip in the story too. Reed, when I was telling Reed about it, and I wasn't going to push him into it or anything at all. I just said, here's an opportunity. Would you want to do this? He at first said no to me. But you know what? On the day, I think it was the day I told him, we were bringing the family together. We were going to go see the movie Jesus Revolution. Have y'all seen it? A lot of you guys have seen that? Well, you know the story behind Jesus Revolution. So we get in the car. I just told Reed about it. We go to watch the movie, and in Jesus Revolution, basically the young guy, what's his name, Greg Laurie, is kind of given a church or a little Bible study, and they basically kick him out and blah blah blah. Reads, and then of course it winds up with a positive
It's so
thing.
cute because he goes and does the first little youth meeting, and he and his girlfriend go.
In the movie.
He's like, wasn't that great? That was great. Wasn't that great? They were tracking. They were understanding. And the girlfriend's like, yeah, that was great. And of course, Reed and Rachel have dated for all these years.
Rachel was
And
with
she
us when we
goes
were going to
with
see
him.
this movie.
She goes with him.
So anyway, he watches the movie, and he gets back in the car. He said, "I'll tell Pastor Gooseby go with the yes."
Oh.
So he said no. He saw that movie. Then he said yes. He's been there 2 years. And guess what he was doing there? He went into an old, not somewhat.
Don't say it yet. The
Okay,
first
sorry.
night he goes, he walks in and there are 2 junior high girls.
He's there with 2 junior high girls. Luckily,
Thankfully, he brought Rachel.
Yeah,
with him.
Rachel was with him. She was there.
I was like, oh, and it didn't scare him away. I was like, oh, this is kind of like they had just dwindled down to not very much attendance at all.
And 0
So-
boys, no boys at all. Anyway,
So,
This is at Hillcrest.
at Hillcrest.
This is at Hillcrest.
At the
and
church.
so he took the model of City Church, and he started. Now you can say.
Well,
Go to that.
he went to an apartment complex down Terry Road, and the pastor was all for it. 17 years old too. He throws in the church van. The
This
15
is not the
passenger
First
van.
Baptist way.
I'm like, first of all,
It's
we'd have to sign 14 forms, get them all notarized, have 12 lawyers. He throws in the
Definitely have to be
keys.
notarized.
He goes wandering around an apartment complex, and he brings back 8, 9, 10 African American kids in this apartment complex, and that little youth group is growing. And then a lot of the girls were
They
coming
took
back
a
from
whole
Hillcrest.
family to a summer camp.
Yeah. So anyway,
Speaking of the notarized thing, one of the first times we had kids like get in the car with us to go eat lunch after church on Sunday, and my
From City
boys were
Church.
like at Hillcrest, and I come home from work, and there are these little shoes at the bottom of
At the
our.
bottom of our stairs.
Of our
'Cause
stairs.
our playroom's upstairs, so he made them take their shoes off.
And I
all
was
go
like,
upstairs.
oh, so sweet. And this is the group of boys. They were all boys, weren't they?
Yeah, they were all.
Oh, because we're disciple now, so they split up. So this is our little 19-year-old driving the big old church van.
I wouldn't even trust him to back my car out of the driveway. They gave him a church van.
Breakfast the next day.
Of
So,
course.
anyway,
What do you say?
breakfast the next day at our kitchen table.
So what's the point?
great.
Why are we
So,
telling you all these
first-
stories?
Well, first I want to get back to City Church. So, that's the other thing Joel and I always say is, which y'all know, to reach these kids, first you reach them with the gospel salvation first, and then you have to reach them academically. You have to help them. Education.
Some of them are
education.
years behind, not months,
So
not
that's
some of them are years behind.
Personal story. And
So now we're combining the two. So what's this Hillcrest School have to do with City Church? Well, what they were doing is just anytime, which is so funny, you got a church, it's just strange. I just laugh the way God does this. You got a church with this as your population. I promise you, they're not tithing. That's not what's happening at City Church a whole lot. They got to get a lot of support from outside. And then they're connected to this school. So all of a sudden you got a church who in the early days had to worry about paying the light bill, but they're connected to a church, and they're sending all these kids, to a school. They're sending these kids to a school to get a Christian education, to be witnessed to 5 days a week along with the church. So what they were doing, anytime the city church would have money, they would come up with $6,600 and they would sponsor a kid and send them over there. So anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6, at one time they had as many as 8 of these kids, taking them through the Christian education at City Church, and Dion was one of them. At Hillcrest. And Dion's one of them.
So, and funny story, our oldest,
And Jesus can only be mentioned in a certain way. It's shocked me. And the funny thing about Provine, I went to Provine, Callaway, and Lanier. And this is interesting. They were very open. You know why? Oh, I was told by a basketball coach at Callaway, I believe it was, or Lanier. Well, I think it was Callaway. He said, the public schools are in such bad shape and it's decayed in such a point now that we'll take help from anywhere. So that idea of shove Christ out, they're like, you come on. If you'll help us, you come on. There's actually an open door in our public schools right now because of that. In the Jackson public schools because of that. They're in such bad shape, they'll say, we'll take help from anywhere with no restrictions.
So you're saying when you came to present and let people know about the Crusades, some people didn't want to let y'all in?
They didn't either want to let us in, or the speaker that we would bring could give a non-bullying speech or something, but don't mention Jesus. Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, it was, but Children's Village, you know, they put kids in the public schools, but they had strong Christian home for these Baptist Children's Village kids to live
All
in.
7 days a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Or people, you know, our families that send kids to public schools, but they are giving them the Christian foundation at home. Flip that around. This is terrible home lives, but the hope is to rescue them out of those terrible situations at school and bring them to where a Christian school, a very strong Christian school is. So, Dr. Prather, you want to say?
He led the Baptist
Here he
Children's
is.
Village. He led the Baptist Children's Village for several years.
So he decided to come out of retirement. He's officially able to retire, and he said that he heard the mission of Hillcrest Christian School and decided to come back and invest in the school there. I'm pretty sure for less money than he was getting before. But he has truly a love for the campus, and I went down there. You can like and subscribe. Very
So you
rightly.
interviewed him?
Listen, but I interviewed him, and I looked at the campus. Joel goes, "You're going to be amazed at the campus."
Shop.
I'm trying to show you, but it's beautiful. It's really nice. I mean, that's the gym.
A great facility.
That's a
Surprising.
nice.
Is it a new place and is it, or what it used to be?
Just where
It was
It's-
McClure
it's
years
been
ago.
renovated through the years in a nice way, I guess I would say.
That's
many
the
kids
same
do
spot.
they
The goal is back up to 300. There was one time where Hillcrest had 1,213. It was the same size as Jay and Prep. It has dwindled down to under 300 for various reasons. There was some controversy year past, and then, like I said, all of a sudden, God brings City Church. City Church people are now on the board for the last 2 years. They've combined the ministry, and so what they're doing, I'll fast forward to this. What we're doing is we're trying to raise 50 scholarships. At $6,600 a scholarship, we're trying to raise 50 scholarships, and they're going to literally take 50 kids. They're already, say, 8 or 9 or 10 over there now. We're going to increase that to 50 kids with the mission of getting kids out of those type of home environments through City Church, and then educating them with a Christian education all the way through. And so the two are merging with a whole new vision for the school. And that's why I laugh. City Church, who at one time wasn't sure if they could keep their lights running, now in a sense owns a school. What? You know, only God
So they
does
own
this.
the school?
And
No,
find
he's
ways.
kidding.
No, they don't really own it, but I mean, it's they.
Where is City Church? What's the address?
It's
Not
right
far from
by
Methodist Hospital.
Merritt South. That's Merritt.
Oh,
CNC.
Methodist Hospital.
Yeah, the
Old
old
Methodist,
Methodist Hospital.
yeah. Heinz
General.
Heinz General.
If you're on Raymond Road, right there. If you're
Raymond
standing in the parking lot of City Church, you look down the road, you're looking at the old Heinz General Hospital.
So,
Right down the corner of Raymond Road.
and
and
y'all,
Gallery.
many of you know that the public schools are merging and closing many campuses around the city. So, like, Joel went to Wingfield.
My
and
school's
it will-
gone.
It will be no more.
Yep, it's gone.
I have a couple of principal patients through the JPS schools, and they are all anxious and depressed. And
I'll tell them why. The issue is they've already started busing. One school's closed down, so they grab these kids and they bust them up there. When they immediately, police were called, massive fights
think
because they
about
were in
this.
separate gangs in the
different
neighborhoods,
gangs,
and they went to different schools.
They're
Now they took
merging
two different
with-
gangs and put them together.
and there's,
So you got all kind of
there's
mess.
violence and throwing all those kids together, and so our prayer is we have such a burden for youth, because we can all trace our good, our bad, or ugly from our childhood days and our salvations and our partners in life, and when we were discipled, some of our best biblical basis are our childhood leaders, and they don't have a chance. They don't have a chance in these broken homes and these poor education systems where they're 2 years behind, and with COVID, y'all know even more. And I helped tutor somebody coming from one school to JA his senior year, and I thought I was gonna die because it was so hard. I mean, they need one-on-one tutoring to catch them up.
They're so far behind.
So Will Charles said, he's like, I just can't do everything for him, and he just needs so much more. I'm like, Will, you just have to do your little part. So our asks, number 4 things. What can a little white woman do? Well,
Open your home, number 1, like that. Baby, if you have a pool, these
that
kids
is
just
all
show
it
up.
is.
I know.
That's all it is.
That's first thing. Just be there.
Just keep coming.
It's what Ish
Keep
said, just keep
coming.
coming. Find 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 kids and invest in them for time, not one time, not 2 hours. Let's invest over time.
And again, you're right, Joel. I mean, this child, every time we see him, Joel is not
I'm not a hugger.
a hugger.
He hugs the mess out of me every time I
And
see
Joel
him.
gets a hug every time. Like, he'll be all the way to the car, and he's like, wait.
I haven't hugged you yet. That's sweet, really
But
sweet.
he just doesn't have that at home, and he is just craving it. So prayer, absolutely. I know y'all are praying, ladies. So prayer is definitely needed. We have some steep goals with the Hillcrest board, and there may be some kids in South Jackson that y'all possibly would know that need a place to go. Their parents could afford $6,600 a year. So we need volume just to pay the bills. We need scholarship money. I said, we paid for 3 kids to go to private school,
And y'all know you folks who sent your kids to pray that number.
but what if we could add 1 more to that list,
A plus 1.
a plus one to way more change their lives than the Travisons would be changed. To change his life is way more of a change from what he had to what he will and could be, and to even think beyond getting out of 5th grade. We need people that maybe could teach or tutor a few hours a week, or I don't know, if you would just share the word, and I'll put this up and share the post, and if you know of anybody that has that longing to see lives changed, I mean, I gave you some examples, but I mean, so many, and she's going to nursing school now. So, I mean,
You
it's
give these
just
kids,
amazing.
you give these kids Jesus first. You gotta educate. You gotta give them the tools necessary to not be fighting that kind of battle for the rest of their lives. So you give them Jesus and you give them an education, and you set them on the right path. But it does. It's not parachute ministry. It's day after day after day ministry.
So, just on a personal note, this is very close to home for Joel, and I'll just tell his story because some of y'all don't know how he grew up.
I don't know what she's about to say.
we both came from broken homes, and we dated all through high school, and his mom had nothing but a high school education.
High school education, married at 16, had 6 kids, and I was the youngest of 6.
When we grew up, frequently he has lights turned off and phones turned off, and
That was back when the phone was next to the wall. So
Yeah.
she and I are dating, and so she would send messages to my best friend who lived like within walking distance around the curve from me. She would send messages to him. He would walk to my house and tell me, Meredith wants you to call her, go somewhere and find the phone.
to the Totems.
Yeah. To the Totems back then. The Totems. Yep.
With the quarter.
Yep.
If he could find a quarter. So when he was 15, he worked for Caramel Corn in Jackson Mall. That's his first job.
Jackson Mall,
He
London.
had to
New
get a
York
work
Park.
with a special thing to be able to work at 15.
At 15, yeah.
So he was paying bills when he was 15 years old, and when he applied to at Winfield, he played tennis, and his tennis coach went to Millsaps and always talked about Millsaps. So he wanted to go to Millsaps because it was the best school, he thought, in Mississippi. And
I don't think
so when he goes to apply, back before computer applications, you have to turn in your parents' tax returns. And Joel, at 16 years
My
old,
mom hadn't filed taxes in years. Oh,
He
and the
went
funny thing is that she
downtown.
was owed money back. But she
because
just
she was
never
so
filed
poor.
taxes.
She went downtown and to the state tax. I don't even know where you're
I
going.
went to the federal
Okay,
building
so-
where the IRS agent, where it
A
was.
16-year-old by himself goes downtown and sits down with the lady, and I guess she just had pity on him, and she
And
walked
she laughed
through
at me and thought,
back
y'all come look at
tax-
this goober head kid that's in my office.
back
What I
taxes.
done
He
is I
filed
gone to
his
the library.
mother's back taxes for like 3 years, so
3
he
years
could
of back
apply for federal financial aid.
And she got
to
like
even
$3,000
apply.
back too.
Wow.
She got money back for that.
That was the beginning of his CPA days.
That's
Well,
right.
I really do wonder how much of that is why we didn't see. Why are you talking about all
I'm
that?
telling you because
Oh,
then,
let me say one thing too, because
Okay.
I'm looking at all these wallers. Do you know? I think y'all probably heard me say this. I don't know if y'all heard me say this or not. The man that I remember, I had no father. My father left when I was a year and a half. Had no father. The man who stepped into our life over and over again, and I don't know how my mom had a connection with your
father-in-law.
father-in-law. I don't see. She worked on his campaign, I think, at one time when he first ran for governor. And that man, over and over again, would say, "Nancy, you come in here," and he would just take care of her. I remember one time she had
In
somebody.
fact, not a divine appointment.
I'm
Here we are.
I remember sitting in his office, and she was like, it was a credit situation. He picks up the phone, he calls the person, he knows the person, whoever the debt that my mom owed. He said, basically, Tom, good and well, she can't pay this. Good and well, she'll file bankruptcy, she'll do nothing. You take $200 and she'll bring it to you later, and you're gonna take that, you're gonna be okay with it, aren't you? Yes, sir, I am. And he would do that for my mom. Anyway, that's, so I've always had just the Water family for that reason. That's what I remember as a child, is that man.
So my point is that he had a youth minister, at a church that fed us spiritually and led you to Christ. And then he finished, praise God, high school education, and then went to Millsaps and got an education. And first to go to college in his family, and only to go to college in his family. And now he is able to invest in other people. So, and it's logarithmic. I mean, so, and now our kids are interested in doing some ministry. So here's my verse that God's been wrestling with me about, my scripture passage, 2 Corinthians 4, and it's talking about Paul's perseverance in ministry. For God, who said, "Let light shine out of darkness," is the one who shined in our hearts to give us the light of the glorious knowledge of God in the face of Jesus Christ. But we have this treasure in clay jars, so the extraordinary power belongs to God and does not come from us.
Totally. I'm gonna pause you. What does that mean? It means that the treasure of who God is and the salvation of Jesus Christ, it's sitting in clay jars, which were weak, fragile, falling apart, but we have that treasure in these clay jars.
In these clay jars. We are experiencing trouble on every side, but we are not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are persecuted, but not abandoned. We are knocked down, but not destroyed. Always carrying around in our body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be made visible in our own body. For we who are alive are constantly being handed over to death for Jesus' sake, so that the life of Jesus may be made visible in our mortal body. As a result, death is at work in us, but life is at work in you. But since we have the same spirit of faith as that shown in what has been written, I believed, therefore I spoke. Boy, God has been hitting me a lot with that. If you believe it, Meredith, then speak it. Speak it. You believe it, I believe, therefore I spoke. We also believe, therefore we also speak. We do so because we know that the one who raised Jesus will also raise us up with Jesus and will bring us with you into his presence. For all these things are for your sake, so that the grace that is, including more and more people, may cause thanksgiving to increase to the glory of God. Therefore we do not despair, but even if our physical body is wearing away, our inner person is being renewed day by day. For our light momentary suffering is producing for us an eternal weight of glory far beyond all comparison, because we are not looking at what is seen, but what cannot be seen. For what can be seen is temporary, but what cannot be seen is eternal.
Producing glory, all of that is producing glory, and there it is. That's what the glory looks like.
Thanks so much for watching this episode. Now you engage where God is at work. Please make sure to like and subscribe so you will be notified of future episodes.